Big thanks go out to Taiwa for supporting today's video via Patreon. Well, I've been surprised at the popularity of this commander, to be honest, but it is a really good one. Liberator Urzas Battlethopter versus a Seeker, most likely the Prismatic Bridge. One lander with some ramp. I'm going to risk keeping that. Our opponent just cracking and evolving wilds on turn 1. The artwork for that's awesome. Okay, a Conduit of Ruin. So we are pretty much just going Mana Crypt and a Wastes and holding up the Liberator. Do that during our opponent's turn. Ideally, we will draw into an untapped land next turn so that we can equip the Sword of the Animist. Need to dodge artifact removal here as well. A Rampant Growth from our opponent is fine. Get down the ROFLthopter. Alright, and we do draw into a land, so everything's going our way this game so far. Not bad for a one-lander. Liberator getting its first plus counter. Place Sword of the Animist and equip it. And we'll start ramping this turn. We'll start land ramping, I should say. Hit our opponent for 3 points of commander damage and get another waste into play. Don't have too many wastes in this deck. It is likely that we'll strip our land of wastes if we get the Sword of the Animist down this early. Our opponent's doing well on fixing the colours here, just missing a white mana at the moment. And there is a hostage taker, so likely stealing away the commander. Could be going after, yeah, I was going to say, might be worth going after the Mana Crypt. So I'm really grateful that we've got Sword of the Animist equipped to our commander now. Luckily we've got the Sword of Sinew and Steel available to us. There is a Joyous Familiar. So we go through to attacks, attacking our opponent, and we will land ramp again. And I don't want to play out the sword and not equip it or make use of it in the same turn. I see these as 5 mana spells. So I'll just guarantee, or hope to guarantee, that we can actually land it on our opponent next turn. So throw out a Thought Vessel instead and pass the turn. Cultivate from our opponent. So yeah, they did have the white mana, but it came in off a tap land, so instead going for a Cultivate instead of what we assume is the Prismatic Bridge. And it is a couple of lands. Their land art does match, as it should. And now the hostage taker swinging in towards us, might as well, because they can't block our flyer anyway. Alright, so there's a Solemn Simulacrum. We are going for playing and equipping the Sword of Sinew and Steel. This will add commander damage to our opponent much faster, but we can also get rid of some mana by blowing up the Mana Crypt. This assumes our opponent doesn't have removal or a counter spell or something. Our opponent allows it down, so we pay the 2 mana to equip, and we swing in for what is now 5 points of commander damage. Obviously the Animist triggers again, doing a hell of a lot of work for us. No legal target on the Planeswalker, but we do have one on the Mana Crypt, so we'll blow that up. And we now have Pro Black and Red, of course, so if they go for Blasphemous Act or something, or some black means of targeted removal, something like a Hostage Taker, they're not going to be able to target our commander with that. At the same time, we're potentially going to struggle against the Prismatic Bridge, if that's what they play out here. Instead, it's a Solemn Simulacrum. I'm not sure why you wouldn't get down the bridge there, to be honest. Probably won't blow up their Solemn Simulacrum because they're down to 2 cards in hand, and they'll obviously draw a card with that. And then they went for casting a spell for 3 mana there, so I'm not sure if that's a removal spell or they thought they could cast a board wipe. Yeah, maybe they're attacking him first and then going for a 3 mana board wipe. Nope, going straight through to the upkeep. And there we get into our first Tron land. Highly unlikely that we'll ever assemble Tron in this deck, but put it in there anyway, just in case. Right, so Liberator going straight through to combat again. And we actually look to get our opponent on commander damage next turn, if our opponent can't remove the thing. So not targeting anything with the Sword of Sinew and Steel, like I said. And our opponent is now on 16 points of commander. As Power Plant into play, we'll go for the Joyous Familiar. And then land ramp again with the 3 mana Solemn Simulacrum. Only 2 basics left after that. So bear in mind, our opponent would have had a free creature or planeswalker here off the Seeker, but gets into an Avacyn, Angel of Hope regardless. Luckily for us, we're seeing a Kozilek very soon. And then swinging into us, I think we will block with a Solemn Simulacrum, just so that we can draw a card when it dies. There's a Skull Clamp for us, and an Urzas Saga to drop. So, yeah, get down the Urzas Saga. This is the difference between us playing out the Kozilek this turn and not. Them attacking in and killing off our Solemn. So the Liberator is going to trigger for a second time this game. We draw 4 cards to the Kozilek. And there we see a Sword of Feast and Famine. I don't think we have Pro White on a sword in this deck, so can't swing through the Avacyn, but we do have means of exile, as well as annihilating our opponent's board potentially. So let's go Skull Clamp for free, thanks to the Joyous Familiar. And we will equip that onto... let's just put it on our commander. I think if they've got removal for Kozilek, it'll be exile based in a 5-colour deck, so we'll just go for the Skull Clamp there. Managing to hold us off for a turn though. They get into their own mana crypt this time. And of course it is indestructible. 1 card left in hand, but looks like we're finally seeing the Prismatic Bridge. So there it is. Think we should have seen it long before now. And they might as well swing in with the Avacyn Angel of Hope and deal 8 damage to us. So we'll just take it. Okay, a Sanctum of Ugin. See the second chapter on the saga with the Urzas saga. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts. That'll be a 6th one in play if we activate that. I think I definitely want the Sanctum of Ugin in play, just in case we manage to get into a big Eldrazi or something. The Thran Dynamo is going to pay for itself. It's going to cost 3 mana and tap for 3 mana, so I might as well get that down. Then go for Sword of Feast and Famine so that we can get another buff onto our commander, and then we'll move the Skull Clamp over to the Kozilek. Yeah, I think I am going to swing in here, even though they can block with a bunch of stuff. We'll get them to annihilate 4 cards here, and we will draw cards to the Skull Clamp when it dies as well. We can also swing in with the Liberator, because yeah, that does force them to block with the Avacyn, so it guarantees that the Kozilek gets through. Yeah, pretty rough blocks for them here. They have to block our commander because of the threat of commander damage. So we get our penultimate basic. It is Annihilator 4. I imagine they just go for mana here. Maybe sacrifice the Solemn so that they can draw a card. Yeah, so it's Mana Crypt, the Solemn Simulacrum, a basic Mountain, and they went after a Plains as well, so their mana going down quite a lot there. They do draw a card to the Solemn, going up to 2 in hand. Only 1 basic left in our library now. So the Hostage Taker goes in the way of the Kozilek. I was hoping that they'd sacrifice that, but obviously went after the lands instead. So all the damage getting blocked basically, but we don't lose any creatures. Yeah, we could go for Staff of Nin here to draw more cards, and then still activate the Urzas Saga during our turn before we go into Chapter 3. I think that's fine. This just means that we draw an additional card next turn. Just have to remember to go after the Staff of Nin onto our opponent's face. They get into their own Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. They do not get haste on that. They don't get the cast trigger from it either. Fixing their colours with the World Tree. And then swinging in at us for 8 again with the Avacyn. I think we just take it again. So I don't see a Planeswalker to knock loyalty off. We'll ping our opponent. And then we're drawing an additional card with the Staff of Nin. And there is a Fire Shrieker. Don't have any means of evasion through the Avacyn, annoyingly. Alright, and there's an Ulamog. Absolutely perfect draw there, so really glad that I got down the Staff of Nin. With Chapter 3 going on to Urzas Saga, we will tap that down and get a Construct, and then that'll be replaced with a Sol Ring most likely, I think. Well, we could just straight up go for Commander's Plate, couldn't we? Yeah, let's do that. Bit more fun than the Ulamog, I think. Play the Gaia Eats Sanitarium. Equip our commander with the Liberator. That gives us the protection from white that we need. And then we'll go for Fire Shrieker being cast, just so that I can protect the Kozilek better. No, actually misclicked there, trying to rush so that my opponent doesn't scoop. Yeah, wasting 2 mana there. Put it onto the Kozilek so that it has double strike. And then we swing in at our opponent. Get the last basic out of our library. It's Annihilator 4 again. Oh, and of course I'm forgetting that our opponent's Kozilek has Indestructible, doesn't it? I'm thinking that they don't want to block their Kozilek with ours because ours has First Strike, but yeah, obviously that doesn't matter when it has Indestructible. Anyway, the Kozilek doesn't matter. We're going straight through for lethal here, assuming our opponent doesn't have removal for the Commander's Plate. And our opponent graciously takes it, took the Kozilek damage as well, so went down to -14 and 27 Commander damage. Yeah, our opponent was starting to come back there. We got a lucky draw with the Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. Could have drawn a couple more cards with Hedron Archive as well, which would have been Mind's Eye for even more card draw, so we were actually looking pretty good there. Another Urza land as well. Yeah, that was a fun game. I think we'll try another one. Up against Minsk and Boo this time, and that's annoying that we don't have another land in that hand. We're on the draw, so we could try it, but we got away with a one-lander last time, and that was just lucky, I think. Okay, Sensei's top with a two-lander and an ever-flowing chalice we will keep. Get rid of the Karn Silex, I think. A Utopia Sprawl on turn 1 from our opponent, and draw into a Spine of Issar. We get down a Sensei's top on turn 1, not going to spin it until we've got the ever-flowing chalice out next turn, I think. We see a Loyal Apprentice from our opponent. Okay, there's a Mana Vault as well. So we could go for Mana Vault into our commander. I imagine we see our opponent's commander next turn though, and then they'll be able to start getting Thopters in the way, so how important is it going to be? Yeah, I think we're best just ramping here, ever-flowing chalice, and then we can spin the top at the end of our opponent's turn. Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes. 3+1/+1 counters going on to the Boo. Then Loyal Apprentice will trigger, making a Thopter with haste as well. So turning in sideways for 7 points of damage. We'll look at the top 3 cards with the Sensei's top. And yeah, an Arch of Urzas buried underneath a Mind's Eye and a Black Blade Reforged will go Mind's Eye, Black Blade and the Arch of Urzas. Then obviously draw into the Arch, play that out this turn. And I think we're just holding up our commander and we can get down the Mana Vault at instant speed as well, or spin the top. 3+ counters going on to the Boo again, and more Thopters. Just swinging in with the Boo and a Thopter here. They've got 5 cards in hand. If they can remove our commander, then they can do it anyway. But do we encourage them to do something else here? Don't think it matters if we take the extra 1 point of damage. A Bloom Tender for our opponent will tap for 2 mana. Then an Expedition Map, 2 cards left in hand. And we'll go through to the end step. Play out the ROFLthopter. And an instant speed Mana Vault. Didn't have removal for the Liberator apparently. So there we see the Black Blade Reforged. Don't have all that many lands annoyingly. So they're at a point now where they want to sacrifice the Boo to blow up our commander and draw a bunch of cards. So as annoying as it is, I think we have to go Spine of Issar onto the Minsk here. Would be good to go for the Black Blade Reforged, but like I said, we don't have a lot of land, so it's not going to buff the commander enough to protect it. Could spin the top here, hope to put a land on top and draw into it, but don't think there's any guarantee of that happening. Probably losing this game as it's going now, but it's a nice contrast to the previous game at least. So Spine of Issar into play, blow up the Minsk, force them to replay that. Cracking the Expedition Map, they probably have a Gaia's Cradle in the deck with all these creatures. Nope, surprisingly, it is an Ancient Tomb. The Ancient Tomb does immediately pay for the command attacks at least. So down comes the Ancient Tomb straight away, they'll have no problem in getting down their Minsk and Boo. So down comes the Ancient Tomb straight away, they have no problem in recasting the Minsk and Boo. Swinging in with Boo first before they likely sacrifice it, I think. So whacking us for 7, we plummet down to 16. Then going for the sacrifice. We've swallowed up some of their mana this turn at least, and yeah. Either the damage from the Minsk was going on to us, or the damage from the Boo was going on to us. They could have doubled up on our face and left us with our commander. So they've got 9 cards in hand after a Hyrax Tower Scout, and that is part of a combo. Faithless Looting into the bin will have them rummage to, so getting rid of a couple of lands. We see an Arbor Elf as well, so 7 left in hand by the end of the turn. And there is that Mind's Eye. Haven't been able to shuffle, unfortunately. We will take a damage to the Mana Vault, but we've done terribly on mana here, as well as drawing into some of the bigger spells. Should have spun the top before the draw there, really, but I don't think there's anything we can draw into to get us out of this. Yeah, so it's just the Black Blade Reforged, and we'll spin the top. Yep, so on top with Sensei's is a basic, Mind Stone, and a Lightning Greaves. It can just be Mind Stone, Lightning Greaves, Wastes, and then we'll tap down the Sensei's top, play the Wastes, and draw into the Sensei's top again next turn. Boo is made again at the beginning of the turn, and there is a Zealous Conscript, so I think that is the combo with the Hyrax Tower Scout. So they've got infinites now, but instead of doing that, they're just deciding to steal away our Black Blade Reforged. And that is Black Blade Reforged onto the Boo. So that's a 10-10. Noteworthy that the Boo isn't your commander, so it doesn't deal commander damage, but obviously, as we've seen this game, it does deal massive amounts of damage, so turning everything in sideways apart from the dorks, and our opponent gets us. So I think they were a couple of decent contrasting games, one in which we did very well and one in which our opponent did very well. Minsk and Boo, a very good 1v1 commander that I haven't built, so yeah, the next set is coming out very soon, but might be able to squeeze this one in if any of you want to see it. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Be sure to consider donating on Patreon if you did. Huge thank you to those of you who do. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.